Hey everyone, I'm John Cottrell,
I'm Doug Doyle.
I'm Michael Castorino.
and this is Marine Invertebrates and their importance to our local ecosystems.
Hi, my name is
Hi,
John
my name is
Shaw.
Jack Shaw, and I'm a senior at the Marine Academy of Science and Technology, Public Marine Science High School on Sandy Hook.
Hi, my name is
Hi,
Doug
my name is
Doyle.
Doug
I'm a
Doyle.
senior at
I'm
the
a
Marine
senior at the
Academy of
Marine
Science
Academy of Science and
Technology,
Technology,
Public Marine
Public
Science High
Marine Science High
School
School
on Sandy
on
Hook.
Sandy Hook.
Hello, my name
Hello,
is
my
Michael
name is Michael
Castorino, and I'm a
Castorino, and I'm a
senior at the
senior
Marine
at the Marine
Academy of
Academy
Science
of Science
Technology,
Technology,
a public
a
high school
public
on
high school
Sandy
on
Hook.
Sandy Hook.
So we're going to give you a little background on some invertebrates. First off, what is an invertebrate? And they're pretty much classified as an animal that doesn't have a backbone, also known as a vertebrae. This separates the marine species based on their body composition and the specific characteristics that come with each type of organism. Where do they live? Well, they live in a whole host of different environments, but the ones that are common to Sandy Hook Bay live pretty much on the ocean floor, and they're called benthic organisms. However, not all invertebrates do this. A lot of them do live freely in the water column, and they can just swim around with their other vertebrate counterparts. So, how many species of invertebrates are there? Well, there are about 8,000 different types of marine invertebrates all across the world. It just goes to show how expansive the world of invertebrates actually is. And an education on these species should increase no matter what the most commonly seen species actually is. So what do we catch here on Sandy Hook Bay? Well, it's pretty common to catch crayfish, eels, spider crabs, lady crabs, blue crabs, and horseshoe crabs. It's a whole lot of crabs. When traveling on the Blue Sea, we drag nets at the bottom of the bay. This is called trawling, and it gives us the ability to gather different types of species in different levels of the water column. And finally, what happens when an invertebrate gets too big for its shell? Well, some invertebrates are called crustaceans. They have shells that protect their body. When they outgrow this shell, the animal actually sheds that one and begins to grow a new one. And this is what helps you see a lot of the shells that you find on the beach.
We're going to continue this up. What percentage of all animal species are invertebrates? So it is said that 97% of all living species on Earth have some various species of invertebrate. When were the first invertebrates living in existence? They were composed entirely of soft tissues in the earliest signs. 600 million years ago, evolution had yet to hit the idea of incorporating ocean minerals into exoskeletons. So it was really a while back that these guys started to go around. So the extreme age of these organisms, combined with the fact that their soft tissue were almost preserved in the fossil record, leads to a conundrum that these paleontologists, the guys that were looking for them, know that the earliest ones must have had ancestors stretching back hundreds of millions of years ago. 8. How do invertebrates live? Some of them live in large colonies like corals. Invertebrate colonies are most common in marine habitats, and the individuals are joined to the extent that the entire group can seem like one giant organism. Marine invertebrate colonies include corals, hydrozoans, and sea squirts. The simplest type of invertebrate is the sponge. Among the least involved invertebrates on the planet, sponges technically qualify as animals, having multiple cells and producing sperm cells, but they lack differential tissue and organs. So these are technically classified as the simplest type of invertebrate. What do the invertebrates eat? Just as there are herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores, invertebrate animals, the same range of diets is enjoyed by invertebrates. Spiders can eat other insects. Sponges filter small microorganisms from the water, and ants get specific types of vegetation into their nests so that they can have their favorite fungus to eat. Invertebrates are also crucial for breaking down larger vertebrate animals, which is why you'll often see the corpses of small birds or squirrels covered by thousands of ants and other tiny bugs.
So right
So
here
right here we have a
sand
sand shrimp.
So these are very closely related to the shrimp that we eat when we order at a restaurant. But we don't eat this specific type, although they're still a very vital, important piece to our environment, and a vital piece to the food chain, because once these are fed on and keeps going up the chain, we eventually get to those things that we actually eat, and those larger shrimp and things like that are the actual foods that we eat in our restaurants. Some different types of marine invertebrates actually live inside the shells of other animals, like the flat clawed hermit crab here. There's a crab inside. Turn over.
They actually live inside the shell of a different animal.
This is the spider crab. They're a sluggish, non-aggressive scavenger that eats detritus, algae, and dead fish. They attach pieces of shell, seaweed, and algae to their cells as camouflage, and they're sometimes used as bait. This is the lady crab. They're a more aggressive type of crab due to not having a thick carapace, and they partially bury themselves in the sand to hide and ambush prey such as small clams. They're not commercially valuable, meaning they do not taste very well.
So we're going to talk about the importance of sustainability a little bit.
Yeah, so one problem that's plaguing invertebrates, more specifically marine invertebrates, is the problem of overexploitation. So I'm going to briefly talk about why sustainability is important and some possible solutions. So fisheries are a good part of the global economy, as 70% of the world gets their protein from marine species, and even more so in developing nations. 97% of all fishermen are in developing countries, which most of these fishermen heavily depend on fishing as both a livelihood and a sustainable food source. In 2017, the global fishing market accounted for close to $240 billion, and it is estimated to grow to almost double that size by 2026. The fishing industry is incredibly important, but we've been over-harvesting to the point where it is threatening the future of the species, a great example being bluefin tuna. Threats to target species or species being intentionally harvested stem primarily from the fact that fishermen will fish as much as possible because they expect others to do the same. The high cost of equipment such as boats and upkeep cause fishermen to need to catch more just to make a small profit due to very high expenses. Lack of property rights, meaning where someone can legally fish, and false information on fish stocks also heavily contribute to the problem. Another thing might even seem counterintuitive is the fact that lower fish stocks lead to expanded operations, although there's been a 13% drop in all harvests despite almost a double of expanded operations. Overexploitation doesn't just affect target species that have commercial value, but also non-target species through bycatch and along with destructive fishing gear and practices. Now, despite the fact there's been increased efforts to diminish exploitation of vulnerable species, only around 1% have actually made a successful recovery. The fact that 55% of species are declining in population due heavily in part to excessive fishing has caused a lot of ripple effects. Lower biodiversity caused by overharvesting leads to a much more fragile ecosystem, along with less flood control and waste management along heavily populated coastal areas. So some possible solutions to this problem would be increasing property rights, taking away the $20 billion in subsidies annually given to larger fleets that can operate without them, lower the amount fishermen can catch globally, limit the size and type of nets used, partial bans on fishing certain species, and increasing subsidies to farmers practicing aquaculture, or in other words, fish farming. Next slide. All right, so I'm going to talk about some common examples of invertebrates impacted by overpopulation. The first one are the Raritan Bay oysters in New Jersey, which is a more local example near Sandy Hook. Before the 20th century, oyster bays were so common in the Raritan Bay that ships sometimes had to maneuver around them, and later on they supported vital commercial fisheries around the area. But in the 1900s, the oysters were so overharvested that their populations just plummeted to the point where they were pretty much gone. And only just recently they've started to see a hope for a possible revival. The white abalone, which is a larger type of sea snail, which, much like the Raritan Bay oysters, just got completely overfished to the point where they're now endangered. They supported a lot of California industries until the 1980s, when overexploitation met with natural disaster caused the vulnerable white abalone population to completely nosedive. Coral reefs are also victims of overexploitation as well. Destructive fishing practices, from the use of larger nets to a tactic known as dynamite fishing, the overharvesting of coral for products such as jewelry, and reducing the numbers of grazing fish that clean the coral only add further strain to populations that are suffering heavily from pollutants. Horseshoe crabs, which are another species local to the New Jersey and Raritan Bay waters, are also more vulnerable to a collapse due to being prized for their blood's biomedical value and being used as bait for eel and conch fisheries. In places such as the Delaware Bay, horseshoe crabs are at 1/3 their historical populations, and in many regions in Asia, overharvesting has gotten so bad that at current rates, all 3 species of horseshoe crab in Asia are expected to go completely extinct in the wild. And these aren't the only marine invertebrates that are suffering from overexploitation, and there are a lot more examples, such as various species of octopus and pillicate rock snail, which are also suffering from overexploitation. So to conclude, from both an economic and environmental standpoint, it is necessary that to ensure that we put forth possible sustainable solutions to ensure vital populations of invertebrates don't collapse.
This concludes our presentation. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Have a great day.
Thank you.